Can you hear me? I can't see you. We should play bingo.
I can't record. You know, it's real. Okay, so it is recording now. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I have no idea what was going on there.
That's fine. We're on.
All right. Should I get started, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I should probably introduce myself. I have some people who will be joining the group, but they just couldn't be on this call. So yeah, we'll probably do another one. But just really quickly, so you know who I am. I'm Nicole, and my name is all there. I'm a secondary teacher, and I live in Bournemouth in the UK, so on the south coast, if you're not familiar with it. And obviously from the accent, not from around here. I grew up in Ohio, so I've been in the UK for about 9 years now. And I've got a podcast on folklore, and life is extremely busy. I'm sure you guys know that feeling just from talking to you and listening to you. I can see we got some busy people up in here for sure. And I guess what I wanted to talk about kind of in the beginning is in some ways that really foundational stuff that I know for me, I have to be kind of reminded of consistently. And I know that, you know, really high performing people, which again, you know, I get that sense that everyone on this call tends to be that kind, you know, not getting so busy that you forget, you know, why you're doing something. And like for me, the big thing, and it's kind of my tagline, and it's been incredibly helpful, is just remembering that my body is for adventuring. Right. So it's like when I look at myself, I'm trying not to get trapped in that mindset of just having kind of a ripped body for Instagram, because it's like at the end of the day, it's not really who I am. And deep down, that doesn't actually motivate me. But that my body's for adventuring. And that for me, it's actually been particularly the nutrition. Because I don't know about you, but that is for me the hardest thing to keep on track of. Like I actually really like working out. I'm one of those weirdos. I like the feeling of it. You know, you get the endorphins, etc. But for me, it's stress eating, 100%. I'm seeing smiling.
Emma's drinking Coke Zero at the moment. I'm not gonna.
Oh man,
I'm not stressing. I have a big problem with comfort food, and yes,
I
have a big problem with that.
You know, it's interesting because I come from, for me, a background of also having mass issues with eating disorders, and my mother had issues with that as well. So a combination of things. So like my mother was bulimic, and also had huge issues with like you know, kind of overeating, binge eating, etc., which then obviously it passes down, doesn't it? And it was, you know, that was a huge problem for me. And it's interesting that as much as the nutrition part of this has been in many ways the most difficult, it's actually been the best for me, for a couple of reasons. So the first, I knew that in order not to shove the sprinkled donut in my mouth, I had to have a really compelling why. I had to have a compelling reason why I wasn't going to do that. And it narrowed down to a couple things for me. So the first is that I did a marathon some time ago, and I remember going up this hill on the south coast of England, dying. I thought I was going to absolutely die. And then there was this woman who, she ran by me. Okay. She was ripped. I'm not going to lie. She was an absolute Artemis, beautiful human being, absolutely stunning person. And as she ran by me, she actually started encouraging me. She was like, you know, look at the beautiful scenery. Don't forget that. You're doing amazingly. And it absolutely changed my outlook. And when I was watching her, I realized is that was a person who, like, their body, I think, represented what was in them. I know, is that kind of weird to say, but I could just see that what their body was because of what they were inside. I mean, she was just an incredible person. I'll never forget her at all. And that's an image that I have in terms of my own why, is that, like, I want to be healthy and strong for the adventure of life. And I think in a way that I remember, like, my mother, for example, not being able to, because she never, really took control of that area of her life. So having said that, for me, my why is that I want to be, fit and strong for the adventure of life. I want to be able to go to Malaysia this summer, for example, and know that, I'm going to be healthy and strong and be able to enjoy myself. And I do all of that cheesy stuff that is suggested, like that you hang up signs on your fridge. I have reminders on my phone. I have pop-up reminders that remind me every so often about why, because it has to be compelling, because that moment where you're staring into the face of a brownie, oh my goodness, especially the brownie at my local coffee shop, South Coast Roast. My God, it's a revelation. And it has to just be compelling. So, I mean, I know it's, in some ways it is that kind of cheesy self-development stuff, isn't it? To say, hang up a sign. But for me, I want that bad enough. I want that feeling. The other thing that I want bad enough to do whatever it takes to remind me of my why is actually the discipline of not doing, the comfort eating, which I definitely, God, I struggle with that. Is that it's actually made me face the reasons why I do that in a way that I've never before. So I know for me, like, mass anxiety is, when I'm undergoing a project or I have to do something that's really frightening for me, really frightening. It's almost like I don't know, I go into this trance and I just start putting stuff in my mouth. It's really strange. So I know it's, in terms of organization, it's quite a bit to, organize food. And I know that in many ways, like, the structure of our lives does not make it easy. Because I'm doing the time nutrition for 80-day obsession, and being a teacher, that's a really tough one. But just with a little bit of organization on Sundays, which I'll do when I get off the call, it's actually been fine. And I feel like the benefits have far outweighed. So that's me at the moment. I know, Daphne, you wanted to say a bit about nutrition as well.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to figure out if I'm on mute. Typical conference call discussion. Yeah, and I know that Emma, who's been on the previous challenge group, and Hara, I know you're kind of new to this, and we need to have a conversation maybe after your tax appointment around kind of exactly what program you will start on Monday. I don't know if you've had your parcel delivered yet, but nutrition is huge. And it has taken me a while to figure out how and why. And very similar to Nicole, and it's quite funny that we met through this and we have very parallel kind of lives. But I love working out. I don't mind the workout bit. And I only started realizing what I was putting in my mouth when I was traveling with Andy. And I was so worried that I was going to put on weight traveling with a boy for 6 months. And Andy was extremely sort of chilled out. It's like, why would you gain weight? We'll be walking and hiking and doing stuff every day. I was like, but my body's very different. And I smell chocolate and I gain weight. It's not that I smell chocolate and gain weight. It's that when I see chocolate, because I spend maybe about a week depriving myself of chocolate, when I tell myself that, you know what, Daphne, you can have a chocolate, I have the entire bar. I have absolutely no control, right? And it spirals and spirals and spirals. And what I have found with both 21-day fix and 80-day obsession is that if I spend a little bit of time thinking about what I'm going to eat, either at the beginning of the day or the night before, then life is a lot easier, because then the last thing that I have to think about is food. I just open up some kind of Tupperware and I eat whatever is in there. So I spend the day today, no, that's wrong. I spent an hour prepping for this week, and then I decided to make zucchini bread today, which went horribly wrong because I don't and I hate following instructions. So it tastes fine, but it hasn't risen because I could not be bothered to go get, right, rising flour. Emma, I can see you shaking your head. I can totally see you.
Did you see me rolling my eyes as well?
No, not yet, but anyways. And then it needed apple sauce, which I think is an American thing. And then I got like cooked pears in a can and I mashed them. I should not be baking.
Applesauce is not an American thing. Applesauce is also a British thing. I will teach you how to make applesauce.
I could not find it. And
you can actually buy it in a jar in the supermarket.
It was not. I went to two supermarkets. Anyway,
sorry.
The point I'm trying to make is that it is actually super easy unless someone like me who never bakes and hates following instructions decides to bake. So I think as we go through this journey, part of it for me is about building a healthier relationship with yourself. You see that through the journey, but the other part is building healthy or healthier habits, whether that is in terms of incorporating regular workouts in your schedule or learning how to eat and when to eat. And I think that's one of the key things that Nicole and I want to focus on during this month's challenge. So that's what I have to say about nutrition.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Bertie's just like, he's hangry. I haven't fed him yet this evening, so this is why he's coming.
Oh no.
Speaking of nutrition.
For a minute.
The dog is like, you need to get off the call and go and feed me. Yeah, all right, we'll go and feed you in a minute. I think Daphne and I have spoken quite at length about nutrition because the challenge I've got is I had a hysterectomy 4 years ago and I got diagnosed with menopause last year, although I'd probably been going through it for about 2 years. And there's a lot of conversations about, you don't gain weight when you go through menopause and all this kind of thing, which is bollocks, having gone through it. And I only turned 40 last year. And my metabolism basically went, screw you, on a rather epic scale. And in the last couple of years, I've had to change my eating patterns. I've had to change what I can eat and what I can't eat. I've developed some, not food intolerances, but I've developed bloating to things that never gave me bloating in the past. And I found that if I was eating lots of meals a day, it didn't help. It really didn't help. So I've got to be mindful of that, working out and eating to time nutrition. I need to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on that it's not causing my weight to spike as a consequence, and just trying to stay on top of that. I haven't really lost, I've lost I think about a pound, maybe a couple of pounds doing 21-day Fix Extreme. I've lost 18 and a bit inches since the middle of January when I started doing it.
That's awesome. Just to interject with that really quickly though, it's one thing I always remind kind of challengers of is that, like for me, on 80 Day Obsession, I've lost now 7 inches. My weight has not changed at all.
Yeah, no, I know. I do need. I mean, I do need to get more weight off because I've developed a tire around my waist.
Yeah,
around my hips because of the hysterectomy and because of the menopause. And obviously, being put on HRT a year ago, just literally, I've been on it a year. it caused it took 6 months for my hormone levels to rebalance, but then when they did rebalance and it kind of kicked in, I felt like I was in my 20s again, which was awesome. I can't rate HRT enough. It's awesome. But it also meant that my metabolism woke up and was like, oh, hello, yeah, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I was able to start losing weight, and I have plateaued, but I do need to get probably another 20 pounds off, because I'm classified as overweight, which is frustrating. And I genuinely want to get the spare tire off around my waist, and that is fat. And I do need to do that. But that said, Daphne can notice the difference into, like, I've got abs. I've never had abs in my life.
Whoop, whoop. Celebrate the victories.
They're amazing. It's like, keep looking at it, it's like they're a thing of beauty. Actually, I was talking about it with somebody the other day. I haven't seen
a thing of beauty. That's fantastic.
They're a thing of beauty.
Yeah. But no, there's a couple of things that I kind of, so let's not even take my brother as an example. Andy, who is 6'5", very, very fit and very thin, like, he looks thin. He is also classified as overweight because he has a lot of muscle, like, proportionate to his body.
Yeah.
So I want to be very, very clear that what is on the scales is one version of the truth, which is why, and Emma knows this, but for her and for everyone else who is going to be listening to this later on, it's very important to get a complete picture.
Yeah.
And that involves scales, that involves measuring different parts of your body, like your hips and your thighs and your waist, and that's part of the setup that everyone should do either today or tomorrow morning. That's hugely important, because otherwise you will not be able to say that I've launched 18 inches or 7 inches or anything like that. If you can and you can afford it, there's other more expensive solutions like a DEXA scan and things like that, which will give you a much more detailed view of how your body is composed and where you're accumulating muscle and where you're accumulating fat. But I used to be a slave of the scales. And even today, with all the knowledge and all the wisdom, whenever I set foot on the scales, I immediately get depressed. No matter what the number is, because for some reason it does not align to whatever fictional number I've got in my head. And even yesterday, I was in the gym with Andy and I was trying to do a pull-up, and he looked at me and he's like, I will only ask you this once. How much do you weigh? And my instinctive response, even though I'm sitting here and I'm preaching what I'm preaching, was, oh my God, too much. And he looked at me and he's like, are you effing serious? How much do you weigh? It's not too much or too little. It's just an effing number.
Yeah.
68, but it shouldn't be 68 or whatever. And he looks at me and he's like, hey, who said whether 68 kilos is too much or too little, first of all? And secondly, clearly, for you to do pull-ups on 68 kilos is a huge feat, because it's 68 effing kilos that you have to lift up. The fact that you can do 2 now is a huge victory, right? So you can't compare yourself on Instagram with some kind of celebrity that is weighing half of you and is able to do like 10. That doesn't sort of align. So as we go through this journey, it's something that both myself and Nicole are very, very passionate about. It's the words that we choose to use to describe certain situations, because we're our own worst critics. And one of the asks in this group is that we work together to help each other to go through this mental sort of transition that I jump on the scales in the morning, and whatever number is on the scales all of a sudden determines whether I'm going to have a good day or a bad day. And that number could be that I'm about to get my period, or I just had my period, or I've had too much water or too much salt or too little salt, or I had a plant-based, like majority plant-based meals for 2 days, so my system's very clean, or I've had my awful zucchini bread that hasn't risen and stubby and stuff.
It's poisoned you. No, and it's funny. I know that like my brain can automatically go to the negative, or that's like anxiety. And so then I do a lot of emotional eating, or yeah, exactly. I freak out about not having results, and putting all the effort in. So I know like even when my challengers will put up encouraging stuff, I know it, in some ways it's for them because it's really good, I think, for us to participate because, then we're involved in that process. But actually it's equally good for me because I know that I'm still, I have to be, it almost feels kind of condescending. Sometimes I'm wondering, am I being condescending? You know what I mean? To people who are in the challenge groups. And I'm realizing no, because I know that my brain will go into weird places if I'm not reminded. But actually, Daphne, a couple of things that have helped me. The first thing is body neutrality has been hugely, it's really revolutionized how I've looked at everything. And that's that, like, I don't want to, like the body love thing that it feels almost too much sometimes. You know what I mean? But I thought to myself, a body is a body. I use it for particular purposes, right? And honestly, like looking good is not a bad thing. We want to look good because that's what we show to the world. So certainly, that's a part of it. But it's also just about feeling good in my life, in my daily existence, and that instead of the two extremes of trying to worship myself as some kind of Aphrodite, or viewing myself as some hideous, horrendous ball of fat, which are the two extremes I will go in, actually being somewhere in the middle with that, the neutrality that, and it's actually what I was able to do then is I was able to take photos of myself without judging. And that was the big thing, is not judging. Step on the scale, not freak out, take measurements, not freak out, because I was in that middle place. And that's been, and I look when I'm about to do it, I look in the mirror and say, okay, we're going to be body neutral. It's a body. People change them all the time. If other people can change theirs, I can change mine, So that's been really, really good for me, to, view it in that way.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about everyone's whys. Harry, I'm conscious that we haven't heard from you. Do you want to share a little bit about your why, your objectives for this journey, what you want to get out of it?
Yeah, and sorry, I just realized I wasn't on mute this whole time, so sorry for the background noise. Yeah, no, I have a couple of reasons. So first, if it's related to diet, I have a couple of issues around like I have food allergies. I was diagnosed a long time ago, and I have a lot of them. So I can't eat any fruit except for citrus. I have problems with bread, well, with most grains except for like one or two. And so then that knocks out a lot of other things like rice and all this stuff. So for years, I was actually really good about not eating a lot of the foods that I shouldn't eat, especially related to grains and bread and all that stuff. And then I got tired of it, to be perfectly honest. And I just stopped because it was so restrictive. And I looked great. I felt like I lost a lot of weight. I was in way better shape. It's a whole different life. But then I started to slowly gain weight, and I also am very sensitive to salt. So I also retain water, and there's bloating and all this stuff. Recently, it's gotten really bad. I'm actually going to the doctor because I'm not quite sure if there's something else going on. And I definitely would love to find a better way of managing the diet that I should have, which is pretty restrictive, but doesn't have to be horrible. Just so that I get, my lifestyle and not make it feel like it's a diet. It's just kind of almost, for example, if you have diabetes, you have to avoid certain things. It's you just have to make this a part of your life. And I'm not very good at that. So that's one thing. And obviously learning how to do that better will help me lose weight. And then if there's anything else going on, we can manage it. But I know that for sure. And then fitness-wise, I think Daphne knows this. Like, actually, it was Daphne who inspired me when I first met her years ago. I really want to become a distance runner, and I would love to be able to run a marathon. So I've been trying, and I've been running these smaller races, and I just did a half marathon terribly.
Excellent.
Thanks. So I would love to become fit so I can achieve that goal, down the road. So those are really the two main areas for me.
Ooh, we can encourage each other. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
And to your point, Hara, about the food allergies or intolerances or wherever they are in the sort of extreme things of things, it's quite interesting that as so Nicole and I are both part of a coach group that is doing kind of 80-day obsession for the first time. I think there's 40,000 of us that are doing it. And one of the interesting things for me is the amount of conversations that we have about people who have intolerances and how those have showed up and flared at different parts of their lives. You know, for some women, it's linked around pregnancies, but for others it's not. It's just an age thing, right? I've gone through periods when I've been intolerant to kind of certain things, and I'm now starting to think that, to Emma's point before, things that I used to eat when I was in my 20s all of a sudden give me a horrible bloated stomach, and other things that I couldn't really tolerate when I was in my 20s right now I can deal with easily. The fascinating thing for me in the nutrition plan is twofold. One is around portion control, which I struggled with. So, 21-day fix, and in some of the programs you can have chocolate, or you can have wine, or you can have bread. You just can't have a full loaf of bread, which for me was very helpful. But the other thing is the list includes, quite helpful. The list includes a variety of different sources of carbohydrates, for example, right? So when I used to think that, oh my God, I need to be gluten-free and this is going to be a pain in the backside, then I was introduced to the concept of sweet potatoes, which I never really had as a staple in my diet. Now I do. Or lentils or other legumes that are that I'm now substituting for quite a lot of my sort of carbohydrate sources. And so as we go through this, and as you go through your appointments and you're figuring out what works and what doesn't work, I think the structure of the program, you will obviously need to substitute and change certain things. And actually in the group, Autumn herself, who has developed quite a lot of the programs on Beachbody, was saying that she's now intolerant to almonds and intolerant to eggs and a couple of other like healthy and fit staples that almost everyone will tell you that you have to eat. And she's like, guys, I can't have eggs. I have other things for breakfast, and I'm making sure that we are incorporating alternatives for everyone, from vegans to people dairy free, or people who can't have eggs or who can't have almonds. Like, there's something for everyone.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you.
No worries.
I'm wondering if it might be worthwhile too, because there's obviously food lists, aren't there? So approved, the fixate or the portion fix container approved list. Excuse me, I'm really tired. I can't seem to talk. But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Excellent. It might be worthwhile to maybe. I actually suggested this to another challenger I had who had a lot of food, obviously, intolerances, but just to maybe print it out, and just it takes some time to maybe go through and highlight, the things that you can have, because then I think that kind of reduces the anxiety too. Because I know that when you do have, because I have a few intolerances myself, and when you do and you have that bloating, because I get that really horrible, the trapped wind, that is so painful that you want to die. There's certain foods that would do that to me. And I remember feeling really anxious when I first started off. thinking, oh shit, is this, am I going to have that? Because it actually, for me, it would make my day, I couldn't deal with it. And I almost murdered children because I was in pain. That anxiety you feel that you won't be able to deal with your day. So, but I did that. Excuse me, I just printed off the list and just went through and had to think, just did some planning about what is it that I can have, and just stuck with those things. And that's actually really helpful. But the list, there's a lot of foods listed.
I actually still, I've been doing Beachbody programs properly because I've done them for years, but never followed the nutrition for about 5 months now. I still have that list in my kitchen. It's just up there, and I will occasionally look at it and go like, what the hell is it blue? And I'm like, oh my God, it includes feta cheese. Oh my, I still have pleasant surprises when I look at the list. Okay, so we wanted to cover those couple of things. I'm conscious of everyone's time. I don't want to take, I don't want to take too long. There were a couple of things that we wanted to talk in relation to portion control and containers. Nicole, do you want to kick this off? We talked about key points from the book, easy ways to keep track of containers, meal planning, etc., etc. Those were the things that we brainstormed before the call.
Yes. So there's actually, if I can post this on the group, but one thing that I did provide, depending on your program, was there's a tally sheet that you can use to ensure that the portion containers that you are obviously staying, within your calorie bracket. It's really simple. Like you just, color it in. I know there's also an app that you can put on your phone for, I think, 21 Day Fix. And I know some people prefer that more tech oriented. Others actually like, the analog of coloring in something. But what I'll do is on the group, I will put up the file it's essentially a tally sheet for the week. And it's divided up by your calorie brackets. So I'll put that up because it's actually quite helpful and a lot of people have liked it. And as I've mentioned, there's also that 20, Daphne, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a app for 21 Day Fix where you can log your portions as well as the containers.
Yes, I've used that one, which was very helpful. For 80-Day Obsession, I've set reminders on my phone because time nutrition, if I'm in a meeting, I might forget. Well, right now, my stomach doesn't let me forget, but at the beginning, I would forget. But I also, then I prep everything the night before or the morning whilst I'm waiting for my Energize to kick in. And then for me, it now has become so simple to just pull everything together. But the first couple of weeks were tricky. It felt a little bit like an imposition. And then when I realized the benefits of not having to think about it for the rest of the day and just having to spend 10 minutes concentrated and figuring out what I'm going to eat, then I realized that it was actually a huge enabler. But the first couple of weeks, I have to be honest that it was a little bit of a mind struggle.
Yes, yeah. But it does become a habit. Yeah. I feel like I know that I'm kind of at a stage where I know what I like to eat. I don't actually have to, at least for 80-Day Obsession, I don't have to think about it too much because I know the combinations quite well now because there's obviously different combinations of food at different times in the day. But yeah, you do after. That's a good point because I think there's kind of that learning curve, isn't there?
Yeah.
In terms of habits for a couple of weeks. So that was, I think, one of the things. So kind of keeping track of containers. In terms of meal planning, I don't know. What do you guys do at the moment? Do you plan your meals on Sundays? Do you plan on, planning your meals on a certain day, or is it, that you do it on a daily basis?
I just kind of hit up the fridge. I wouldn't say I'm that bad because my fridge is normally pretty well stocked with pretty good things. And one of the things that has been my absolute saviour that Daphne, you might want to know about it, is you can buy basically they're cubes of sweet potatoes, and they are coated with rice flour, but you just whack them in the oven. And I generally tend to, when I was working a lot before Christmas, I would effectively work through my lunch breaks. So what I've gotten very good at is sticking food on a roasting pan and putting it in the oven. So that would be chicken thighs, sweet potatoes, and then green beans, and that's generally what I would tend to eat. And my breakfast is normally something like it's normally toast or something that's not too heavy. Yesterday I treated myself to a bacon sandwich.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Which I had to slog down. I had to slog through the snow. It was my consolation having to do with the fact that our village has been snowed in. I'm not very good at kind of going, well, this is what my meals are going to be for the week. And the reason why is I have tried that in the past, and I find I last about 3 days, and then the weather changes, and I'm like, I really don't want to eat this today. So that's the thing that I kind of struggle with. If I plan the whole thing out religiously at the start of the week, I will fail. And I know there's that whole thing about fail to plan to fail. But if I plan my meals religiously, I will screw myself because I'm a foodie.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I don't actually, because I know a lot of people plan everything on a Sunday. I don't.
Yeah.
I actually, my whole rhythm now, and I think it's about finding a rhythm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That works for you. I think that's the key. But being honest with yourself and saying, yeah, this is my rhythm, I'm going to stick with it. I actually, I'll make dinner. And while I'm making dinner, I kind of get breakfast and lunch and snack ready for the next day.
Yeah. I mean,
because I found that the Sunday thing, it works for a lot of people, but
it does. Yeah.
But other people, it doesn't. So for me, I do the whole dinner thing, like, because it doesn't actually take me that long to make dinner. And I just do it all at the same time, bang it in the fridge, and I've got the next day. Because I'm kind of like you. I like thinking about, ooh, what do I think I'll be in the mood for?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is, for me, I can follow recipes. Definitely, I'm just going to throw that one out.
Fine. I live with an anosmic, so the bar in my house is very, very low.
But I do actually prefer. I prefer coming up with recipes of my own, and I have been known to spend days thinking about something that I want to cook at the weekend, and just kind of break it. I'm not heavy breathing, the dog is, by the way, and breaking it down, to the point where I look forward to something that I'm going to cook in detail at the weekend, and that to me is enjoyable, and I get a kick out of that. But like the start of this, halfway through the week, I made myself a stew, which was 3/4 vegetable that went in the pan, some lean meat, a bottle of beer, and some stock, and that was it. And that's my staple in the winter. I will often make that on a Sunday, and that will last me a few days. But then by the time I get halfway through the rest of the week, it's like, well, I want something different now. But I have been, I have left the house today. I did get to Swindon, even though technically the road was closed. So I've done some shopping, and I've stocked up on wholemeal pasta, and I've already got like lots of legumes in and things like that. So I'm kind of like looking forward to the challenge of breaking it down into smaller portion sizes and trying to get those meals in throughout the day. The one thing I have found that's more interesting with 80 Day Obsession that I didn't find with 21 Day Fix Extreme or any of the others is that the Time Nutrition tells you what pots you're supposed to be eating.
Yes.
Which the rest of them were like, here's your daily allowance. And you're like, okay, great. So you try and work out what's when, and that could actually lead to overportioning because you're and you're not mixing the right nutrients at the right time. So this is actually a little bit easier to help me follow it and go, okay, well, I'm supposed to have these coloured ones now. And that means I can go, all right, well, I'm going to plan it around that. And that helps a bit. The one thing I will struggle with is getting in breakfast first thing in the morning, because I've got a morning routine that's quite tight. Because not only do I have to do, I'm not only stepping up, going from 30-minute workout, I also actually have an additional 30-minute workout of walking him is the thing that gets my heart rate up. So I'm actually doing 90 minutes of exercise first thing in the morning. So I don't know how I'm going to get my breakfast in first thing before I get him out the door, because he will be driving me insane. So I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Do you have to? So you have to go to work, I'm assuming. Like you don't work from home.
This is my. You're in my workspace. This is what. This is where I work. This is my office. So yeah, I work for myself. So I work from home. I say I work from home. I don't have any income at the moment, mainly because I came out of a contract at the end of last year, and I'm trying to build up my own business. My goal is to make money in the next.
Yeah, and I think, I know that for all of us with the different programs, there's always going to be, like, because I teach, so having to figure out how the hell I get in the time nutrition. Yeah. But I managed it, you know what I mean? Because I think at the end of the day, I thought, you know what? My entire life, I've always had some reason why not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I just, in my own mind, but it was a mindset thing. That's really where it's at, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is in my mind, you know what? There's always going to be a reason why not. I'm going to figure it out. And you know what? It's been fine. That's been the great thing.
I mean, yesterday I did kind of like, I did my version of like timed nutrition, roughly following what I should have been following. I will add, I had bacon yesterday morning, which I've already told you. But the thing I found was, because I was on day 5 of A Little Obsessed, and I noticed the difference having eaten regularly throughout the day. I was in a lot less pain.
Yeah. Is everyone doing 80-day? Who's on the call now?
Hara, have you had a chance to think about what you want to do?
I joined. I think I signed up for 80 days. Is that the right one?
Yeah, perfect. So the interesting thing with 80-day obsession is I would run marathons, guys, without eating before the marathon. So when I started 80-day obsession, I realized that I had to eat before I would exercise. I thought that was mental. I thought, you know what, the first thing that I will do is eat, and the second thing that I'm going to do is throw up, basically, in my morning. That was my expectation. But what happens is and I will share on the app my meal plan for kind of the first couple of weeks for 80-day obsession. And then I think the timings are in there. If they're not already, then I will add them in. But what would happen was that I eat about 40 minutes before I work out. I have the lightest version of the breakfasts that you can have.
Yes, that's what I do as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have the lightest version, so the least amount of food. The workout itself is maximum an hour. And for the workouts that are an hour, and for you guys that are starting on Monday, they will be an hour, because she needs to explain quite a lot of things. How to use the loops, how to use the sliders, what are the moves, etc., etc. The first week, the workouts are definitely about an hour long, because there's a lot of instruction. What would happen was, around 15 minutes into the workout, I was ravenous. I was hungry with a huge A, ready to bite the head of anyone who got in my way before I would get my neck.
Yes.
Right? So there is, and then about 3 weeks in, even before my reminders went off on my phone, and I realized, and I knew that I had to eat, my body was telling me that I had to eat. I would get cranky, I was tired, I would get a headache. But I realized that I had to listen to my body, and that my body knew before I even realized what I had to do and what I had to eat. So it takes a while. I know it is a huge shock to have to eat first thing in the morning. I think we've all been raised on the assumption that we should not be eating anything, and blah, 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 blah. Trust the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It will require that you trust and believe in the process. Believe that it works, because it does. It works.
And honestly, I will second that.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be 38 this year. And I'm not going to lie, I have always struggled with eating and all of that stuff. And I'm on what day is it now, Daphne? Like 44? Yeah. And it's been a game changer. Yeah. Absolutely.
So it will be, it's not going to be, the first couple of weeks, I think Nicole and I would be failing you if we were to sit here and say, you know what, guys, it's going to be easy. You will have to introduce into your routine new habits. The first phase is structured around shocking your system with time nutrition so that you will start seeing the weight fall off. If you have 15, 20 pounds that you want to lose, you will see the weight dropping off. If you don't have that weight to lose, if you're in around the 10-pound mark, it will take a little bit longer, but stick with it because it works. And do not compare, and I'm saying this for everyone who will listen to this in a little bit later on, do not compare yourself with other people. Like, I haven't lost any weight at all. But I went from doing 20 push-ups, 30 push-ups in a minute when Nicole, you and I did it right before Christmas.
Yeah.
Now I can do 50 without even thinking about it. Around 48, I start getting tired, right? So your body will change and you will go through a transformation journey, but trust the process. And that's the one thing that Autumn keeps coming back to every time someone objects about something. It's like, guys, I designed this for a purpose. Phase 1 is about building habits and starting to build muscle. Phase 2 is all about building muscle. Like, you would be surprised with the things that your body will be able to do. And then phase 3 is designed for shredding, like full on shredding. With every phase, we will recalculate what meal plan we're on, what we're going to be eating. You might stick to the same meal plan, or you might move on. I actually have to eat more in phase 2 than I did in phase 1, which is mental.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
I look at the containers, I'm like, you want me to have how much food? This is crazy. And then halfway through the day, I'm thinking, oh my God, thank God there's so much food in my diet, because otherwise I would be fainting. So I'm conscious of time. I actually have to go to the movies. I think the key takeouts here for everyone is look through your materials for 80-day obsession. Go through the calculations to figure out your meal plan. Take your measurements, and Nicole, jump in if I'm forgetting anything. And measurements is not just weight. It is measuring the circumference of your waist, is measuring your arms, your hips, your thighs, anything that we will be able to then in a week or 2 weeks time look back at and say, oh my God, these numbers are going down, these numbers are going up. Print out the tally sheets for 80-day obsession so that you can mark what weights you're using, right, in order to get through the exercises. Because again, you will be surprised as to how much you can go up in weights within a week or 2 weeks. I did sumo squats the other day with 50 kilos. I was like, what the hell is going on? I started at 11. How is this even possible? And then I couldn't work the next day, but that's a different thing. And trust the process. I think those are my key kind of takeaways for 80 days. Yeah. Nicole and I are here to support everyone and make sure that you have fun, that you enjoy yourselves, and that we go through this together.
That's it.
Yeah, I think that
that's perfect.
I'm conscious that we've kind of monopolized the conversation because we have the pleasure of seeing each other on the video. But is there anything else from your side that you want us to kind of go through and cover?
No, that you covered it all. This has been great. Thank you so much.
No worries.
I'm so excited to get started. Yeah. I didn't get the package yet, but I'll probably get it by Monday. So. I saw a couple of boxes that haven't been distributed yet in my building. So I'm sure one of them is mine. I'll check today when I get back. If not, it's probably tomorrow.
Excellent.
Perfect. Awesome. Emma, anything from your side?
No,
That
I
sounds
think,
so professional. I feel like I'm, this. I sound like my Monday self, not my Sunday self.
so you could go back. You could flip. You can flip it around, and tomorrow you can do your Sunday self on your. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
A message saying, I don't want to do this. This is too hard.
No, it's fine. I start 80-day obsession tomorrow, and I start B school. So
woo-hoo! This is awesome.
Yay! Congrats!
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Yeah, very, very excited, everyone. Nicole and I will see you all tomorrow. Take your measurements, pictures. Nicole, that's the other big thing that we forgot to mention. My God, guys, pictures. Take pictures of yourself.
Yeah.
Nicole's point, body neutral. Don't start judging.
Body neutral, yes.
I just judged the shit out of myself. Take a picture, put it to one side, and then in 2 weeks, we're going to take pictures again wearing the same stuff. So don't throw it away. Put it to one side, even if you don't like it. And that is another amazing way of seeing sort of transformation and seeing muscles built. And to Emma's point, starting to see abs. And Emma is very good at sort of tracking progress this way. And I think every week or every other week, whenever you do it, Emma, we're all like, oh my God, look at your shoulder, look at your arm, look at this, look at that. Yeah? So
yeah, no, I do. Daphne told me I don't smile in them, so I've had to start trying to remember to smile in them, which is quite funny. So
I can only take mine when Andy's around, because the first one that I took, Andy took, and he was standing. So I now need him, because I don't have anyone else in my life who's 2 meters tall to sit there and take a picture.
yeah, I have to take mine in. I have to take mine in the mirror in my bedroom, in my office, because the tripod I've got. So the first one I took was on a tripod, and I actually broke the tripod taking that picture. So
Oh, no.
I still haven't got around to taking the tripod back to get it replaced. The catch on the bottom fell out, so it's fine. But yeah, that wasn't very easy. So now I just take them in the mirror. But the lighting's not great, and you can't see all the definition.
Yeah. Okay, right, everyone, have a fantastic Sunday evening. Do a little bit of meal prep, no meal prep, whatever works. But plan to take pictures, measurements, and kick ass tomorrow. Yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, I'm ready.
Perfect. Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.